Thank you. We're back at the Students for Liberty Conference. More than 1,000 students have gathered here in Washington, D.C. to advocate for a free society, and that includes free speech, free thought, a right to start a business, a right to try new things. You want that? Yeah! But this presidential campaign, one surprise has been the success of an old Democrat socialist candidate, Bernie Sanders. He wants government to have more power and money. And for that, he's getting big support from people your age. What's that about? Well, Emily Ekins of the CATO Institute's a pollster who studies voters who say they feel the burn. What's wrong with those people?
Well, there's nothing wrong with young people today, but I do think that Bernie Sanders has captured their hearts and minds in ways that other candidates like President Obama and also Ronald Reagan did in the past. They like inspiring, honest candidates who they feel care a lot about them. Bernie Sanders is actually the most civil libertarian candidate of all the different presidential candidates. So after Rand Paul, we found that people who score high on a preference for libertarianism go to Bernie Sanders next.
It's surprising because Sanders' economic planning would take power from individuals and give it to the state.
Young people are just not that alarmed about socialism. Across a number of different polls, we see that young people are the most supportive of socialism compared to older cohorts, and they're about as likely to say they like capitalism as socialism.
So are they dumb? Are you dumb? Are your friends dumb? Yes?
Part of it is young people don't know what the technical definition of socialism is. A recent poll asked people to use their own words to define it, and only 16% of millennials were able to do it. They grew up after the Cold War. They don't remember socialism in the context of the Soviet Union like older people do. For young people, socialism means Scandinavia. But that's something I think that needs to be corrected, is that Scandinavia is not socialist. The Prime Minister of Denmark even went after Bernie Sanders and said, stop calling us socialist. We are a free market economy, and in fact they are, and across a number of different economic indicators. Sweden, Norway, and Denmark actually outrank the United States on property rights freedom, the ease of starting a business. When they liberalized their markets like that, that actually helped.
Got rid of labor laws.
Yes. That actually helped, that accommodates their large social welfare states. And that's what Bernie Sanders, he's talking about their large social welfare states. He's not acknowledging how they liberalized their economies in the 90s that actually helps pay for the social welfare state.
How many of you would consider voting for Bernie Sanders? No. No one here?
When government is planning either an industry or an entire economy, it tends to result in the same set of consequences, which are long lines, rationing, lower quality care, and less innovation. If you want less innovation, then we can embrace those systems. But if you want to have a cure for cancer, if you want to have a cure for HIV in the future, you have to have innovation, you have to have free markets, even in the healthcare system.
Your polling has found that millennials start to turn against socialism the more money they start to make.
That's exactly right. We found that as millennials started to make between $40,000 and $60,000 a year, their support for income redistribution flips, and their support for raising taxes to increase spending.
Makes it sound like it's all about selfishness.
Selfishness? No, I don't think that that's it. I think as young people start making sacrifices, they start working longer hours, paying more in taxes, buy a house, have kids, they want to be rewarded more for those efforts. And that's actually what most Americans think.
Questions for Emily Ekins?
On the popular Netflix TV series House of Cards, which I'm sure you've heard of, the main character, President Frank Underwood, states to the public that you are entitled to nothing.
Sounds right to me. You're entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
The root idea of socialism is that everyone should be rewarded equally, or at least according to their need, regardless of their achievements and efforts. A question that really gets at the root of this is a question about kids' sports trophies. We asked about it on a recent poll where we asked, should all kids who play on a sports team get a trophy for their participation, or should only the kids who win get a trophy? A majority of Americans, 57%, said only the kids who win should get a trophy at the end of the day. But one group stood out who thought all kids should get a trophy regardless of what they do. And those were the 18 to 24-year-old college-age Americans.
The socialists. Next question.
I'm a state representative in the south of Brazil. A huge concern from parents and students in Brazil are that many teachers in school, they indoctrinate in socialism and Marxism instead of giving education. If this is the case in the United States as well, what to do about it?
Now, a lot of people are not learning about what happened in the Soviet Union when they had an experiment with socialism, or other countries that have experimented with socialism. Instead, we talk about socialism as if it's Scandinavia, and they're not even socialist. So let's talk about history, see what can we learn from those experiments. And they didn't go well. And I think we should be teaching that.
But your whole continent has experimented with socialism. It hasn't gone well, and they keep doing it.
They do. So, and we have to do something about it, so that's why we're here, actually.
Thank you, audience, and thank you, Emily Ekins.